Today's in the hoop design are spool thread covers. You may also call them spoolies or felties. They're what you put over the spindle on your sewing machine below where your thread goes. These are a really nice way to dress up your machine, be it an old one like this. Well, actually this isn't, or a new one. So this design is available in two formats. It can either be stitched with an open fill, that is, it just divides it into sections, or a fill in each of those little sections, so it does a fancy stitch pattern in each of those. And I've done this one in 3 colors, that's how the design is set, but you can change it all to 1 color or whatever colors you like. I do recommend that you print out your instructions and the layout guide. The layout guide is going to show you what each run is and what's done in that run. So that will help you follow what's going on. So I'm going to gather my materials. I need a 3-inch square of fabric and a felt. You could actually use a circle, but I find that squares are easier to cut. I've got my wash away stabilizer already in the hoop. I like the wash away, it gives you cleaner edges on your finished product. I've got my thread all set up, my little scissors for trimming the applique, and our friend 505 temporary spray. So before we get started embroidering, we need to finish prepping the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little bit of 505 spray on my fabric. Always try and spray the spray away from anything, and I'm going to put my fabric over top of the felt, good side showing, and I'm going to have a little sandwich there. Now what I'm going to do is you want to cut a hole in the center of this. You can, if you prefer, just punch the hole out with your thread ripper and some sharp scissors when you're done, but I kind of like to do this. So I've folded it into quarters. I've got a little point there, and I'm just going to cut that off fairly small. I only want about a 1/16 of an inch cut. Give me about an 1/8 of an inch hole. So now I've got a nice little hole in my design. I'm going to go back over to my ironing board and just press that real quick before we get started. It's a little wrinkly now, so we'll just give that a quick press. Make sure your 2 holes are lined up. And I'm going to put my hoop in the machine. This hoop only has 1 screw on it, so I always put it with the screw out front so I can remember which way it goes. Before I start sewing, since I have a multi-needle, I'm going to go into the edit mode and make sure that I've set stops and set the colors to the colors that I want to stitch. I'm going to do this in 2 colors. So we're ready to start stitching. The first run is going to be a placement run to show me where to put the fabric. I do recommend doing this run in a color which will show up on your stabilizer. The placement run has finished stitching, so I can remove my hoop from the machine, and I'm going to place this so that I can see the center of that X through the hole that I cut in my fabric. So I'm just going to set this so that that X is centered in that hole. Press it down. Do a quick look from the back side to make sure that I can see my stitches and the fabrics around them, so I've got enough room to trim. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a press with this just to help keep it firmly in place. Now we'll put this back in our machine. The machine will secure the fabric in place, and then we will pause it to trim around the edges. Our design has been stitched in place, so I'm going to come back over to my work area, And I'm going to go ahead and trim this around the edges. So I'm just going to trim right along the edges of those designs. I've got my little applique scissors here. These are nice. The curve lets you get right in there. And just trim as close as you can to the threads without cutting them. Pull up gently on the edge of the fabric, and that will help get it away so that you can make a nice clean cut. And just work your way around. And the other thing I'm going to do here when I'm done trimming this is to cut the threads that make that X out of the center of the design. They can be a little difficult to trim away once the satin stitching is done. They're a little easier to remove now, and you don't want the threads hanging out, especially if you've got a different color that you'll be using on your inner satin stitch. So a few more snips here and we'll have this all trimmed. And then I'm going to, so that's all trimmed, and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to cut that knot from the very center of the design so that I can take out those stitches from that center area, that little X. So we'll just cut that knot gently from the back. Actually, it doesn't even really matter if you cut the stabilizer a little bit, you're through there. And I'll come back over here with my little tweezers, and I should be able to pull most of that out of there. Got one more thread to pull. And that way, like I said, we won't have those threads showing on the final design. So that's just a little trick to help clean that up and make it a little neater. Go ahead and trim some of those threads from the back while we're at it. So now I'm going to pop this back on the machine. Make sure you put it back in the right way, and we're going to let it finish stitching the design. It will secure the center area of the hole in the center, and then it will stitch those decorative circles and division lines, and then the outer satin stitching. And that'll take about another 5 minutes. Okay, our design has finished sewing. Thank you, dear. We can take our hoop out of the machine and remove the design from the hoop at this point. So I'm going to pop that out. I'm going to trim away the excess stabilizer. And then I'm going to go into the bathroom so that I can rinse away the rest of this stabilizer. So I'm just going to run a little water over it. I like to keep a little cup handy, and what I do is I wet the stabilizer and wait just a couple of seconds, and then you can usually just pull it right away, and then I can drop that in the cup instead of down the drain. And then we're also going to get the stabilizer off the back of the design. Again, wet that. Sometimes if you get it going good, you can peel some of it off. If it's not peeling off nice, then just rinse it good to get rid of the rest of the stabilizer. So you do want to rinse this fairly well. You want this, somewhat soft against your machine. So So we'll just rinse away that stabilizer. And then I'm just going to lay it on an old towel I use here and fold the towel over and press down on it to remove the excess water. So I just got it between the two layers of the towel there and press to remove the excess water. Now I've just got a few threads to trim off the back here, and I will give it a quick press and we should be set to go. So I will trim these threads, oops, off the back. The center looks pretty good there. So I'm just going to come over here and we will give this a quick pressing, just really to dry it out more than anything, and press the embroidery a little. And then once this has finished drying, you've got another felty or spool thread pen cover ready to use on your sewing machine. I hope you've enjoyed today's project for making spool pen covers. If you have, please like and share. And please subscribe to our channel to enjoy other In the Hoop videos we've made. Happy stitching!